Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Shift Handover. We're here with another episode for you. Me and my co-host,
Mark Smith.
My name is Dan Sharp, and today we are joined by...
My name's Darren Attard.
Darren, give us a little bit of a background about yourself. What have you done in the security industry?
Yeah. So a lot of local work. I actually so I predate SIA and when SIA was in force, currently is, but so I actually worked my first door about just when I turned 17. There was a fella doing a one-man door in a club in town, and he had some issues one night, and I helped him out, and then he was like, "Can you come back every weekend?" So that's where it started for me. And then, back then you used to get your £10 licenses, didn't you, for the 3 months from the borough. And yeah, progressed over the years, went on to work lots of doors in town for a couple of different companies, as well as the biggest event security company in the world, doing lots of festivals, all around the country and overseas.
Okay. So, how long were you in the security industry for?
It's all in all 15 years. Probably about 15 years, with maybe a couple of years break in between some of those. But yeah, from 17, 18. I won't say I don't want to get anyone in trouble for being on the door at 17, but right up to
Was it first stop?
We weren't around then.
No comment.
Don't
No, it wasn't. Yeah, about 15 years with I think when I'd entered like different kind of areas of other parts of the job market is when maybe died down with security for a bit, and then other times I've picked it back up again. About 15 years.
Okay. So the reason we brought you on today is there's something that separates you from quite a few other security operatives, and what would that be?
Well, you've asked me to come on because I've got ADHD.
That positive discrimination. We're not ticking a quota.
Not because of any of my other accolades, but filling in the DUI or whatever. Certainly had ADHD my whole life. That's been prevalent. I was only kind of properly diagnosed about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And that's when lots of things made sense. And actually like really kind of struggled my way through life really, and having to work, you struggle your way through work as well, really.
I guess you wouldn't know any different because it's just your normal.
Yeah. I think that I suppose the misconception really around ADHD is people are just excitable, right? Or they're naughty, or even some people are, it doesn't exist, or whatever. But actually there's so many kind of subcategories of that, which is having crippling self-doubt, anxiety, depression, being way more statistically likely to suffer from addiction, suffer from financial problems, be in debt, unable to hold down a job, unable to hold down relationships. There's a real kind of caveat that kind of comes underneath that, which people that know, but people that don't, I'm not sure we'll ever get or aren't maybe willing to understand or learn about it. But it really, it bleeds out into every area of your life. And I think, particularly if your whole childhood has been about it as well, the typical young person compared to, someone with ADHD, they've been told no or told off or separated 1,000 times more than everyone else. So that has a massive effect on you as you're growing up, or you're going into manhood, or you're trying to find your way through life, because the overall I guess the overall message is no, not good enough, behavior is bad, you need to be separated out the room, you know. So yeah, it's not a little thing, and I think we're seeing so much more at the moment, both like in the media, on social media, and actually quite a lot of negative stuff as well. You know, they're talking a lot around people who have got ADHD with like their benefits claims and things like that, and you know, people shouldn't get it, but I don't. Again, all that stuff I spoke about, I don't think people understand that side of it. And you know, for some people, they're not fortunate enough that they've had the capacity or the ability to do their work around it like I have. So they don't understand this stuff. Meanwhile, they're still sitting there, addicted, in debt, marriage breakdowns, depressed, anxious, and all that other risk-taking behaviour and all that sort of stuff. So it's a big old subject.
And I guess working in the security industry, we've spoken before about the risks, the expectations, the standards to keep. How do you think you having ADHD affected or impacted your security career?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. So I think there's a lot of positives in, you know, many people with ADHD are fantastic in a crisis situation. So they're fantastic in an emergency, respond really well to chaos. They are, you know, very good at kind of being, it's like FPOS, you know, first person on the scene, hyper detailed, can, you know, almost have a sixth sense for situational awareness. So there can be a lot of positives, but then on the flip side of that, they struggle with the everyday stuff. So you know, having that kit when they're working, being organized, motivating yourself as well. You know, there's a big thing around, if something doesn't give me dopamine, I have to work really hard to put myself in a position where I'm physically and mentally able to do it. So if you're kind of counting down the time till, say, your shift starting at 10 o'clock, it's really hard to get yourself out the door. You know, it can be really hard. And I suppose that you know, that then feeds into, either not turning up to work, or you know, consistently having to change roles, or maybe struggling around teammates and things like that. You know, I was very fortunate. I always had really good relationships with my teammates and my employers, but there's definitely times where kind of byproducts of my ADHD, with the kind of depression, anxiety, where work was a real struggle. You know, particularly that getting out the door. Once I got there, I was all right, but getting out the door at night, or you know, and I know that I had to. So I was at a busy venue. You know, I would always be on the front door, whether it was middle of winter, because that suited me. You know, I didn't want to be inside where I was too hot and all this and that, and too much noise and chaos. Of course, I would always answer the radio if I wasn't the sole person responsible for the door at that time. Not that I ever worked a one-man door, I refused to do it. But for me, I had to consistently make adjustments in my working life to manage that, I think.
Did you ever cancel shifts, blow out?
Yeah, I probably did. Yeah, I probably did. I think certainly when there were things going on in life, you know, I suppose over the years I've developed that kind of 3, 2, 1 go thing, where I'm not kind of overthinking things.
Yeah.
But certainly, you know, when my anxiety was sky high, or you know, life outside of work might have been a bit chaotic. Yeah, it was hard to do that. And I think for me, obviously, I had quite a lot of physical issues at that time. Certainly towards the end of when I finished working the doors, that then became really hard, because you know, if say I'd restrain someone, or you know, my whole elbow would blow up, my shoulder would pop out. You know, it was just
That's called father time.
yeah,
We all know about that.
It was one thing after another. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking, going in the next day, I'm like, I've only got one arm. What am I going to do? One arm and one leg. And some employers were really great, you know. So one employer that I was working for, you know, they said, well, let's do your CCTV course. Do you know what I mean? And do the control room.
Yeah.
You know, and then no matter how you're feeling or no matter what's going on, or, you know, if you're in a place where your Achilles bad, you know, I've got a disease that attacks my joints. And so they flare up and, you know, become really painful. You know, and actually the adjustments that they made for me were incredible, such as, doing the CCTV, being in the control room, maybe doing the vehicle stuff, response teams or whatever. Just, okay, we want you here. You're a great member of staff. How can we make it work for you and us? You know?
Good. That's really good.
Yeah, that's really good to hear, actually, because we know not every employer's like that.
Yeah, there was certainly some that weren't.
Okay.
And I suppose I see it from both sides of the coin. You know, you've got a venue that needs filling, you've got staff that you need there, and you want reliability. You know, I've been an employer and I've been an employee, and dealing with other people's unreliability is really difficult. However, if I'm in the employer role, you know, my question always goes to, well, why? What's going on? Does this person know?
Yeah.
What can we do?
So, were you only? You said you've only been diagnosed recently. 4 years, did you say?
Yeah, about 4 years ago.
Were you aware that you had ADHD? Because having a diagnosis isn't an awareness of
Yeah, that's
what
true.
you've got. Were you aware you had ADHD, or were you?
No. So I think intrinsically, like kind of inside, it was I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I have a tendency to lean towards the more addictive side of life, and I'm terrible with managing money, and you know, I was just naughty. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or and full of self-doubt. So I thought it was all these other kind of separate mental health things. And even then, you know, my understand. So there was no kind of, I suppose, compassion for myself in that of like, oh, there's a reason, and here's what you need to do to kind of work on this stuff and how you make it better. So no, there wasn't an understanding. There was just, this, and this. What is going on, really?
Were you so you were aware that you were different from the typical
100%.
person, but you just didn't know what it was.
Yeah, you know, and it's that thing of why does this keep going wrong? You know, why? And we can all do it where no one else has got the same problems as us. Or if I just had their life, everything would be better. But certainly that feeling of difference, and I suppose like the stuff I said earlier around growing up in childhood and all the things it feeds into. Yeah, it's kind of all that elements that if you've got no one there to kind of show you a different answer, you're just trying to work all that in your already skewed way of thinking and imagining it. And without the kind of problem solving skills.
Actually, quite interested from you, Mark. Have you employed people who you've had an awareness of their ADHD? And
I have, and I'll be honest with you, like Darren just said, unless you're very clued up on it, we're talking years ago, but unless you're very clued up on it, you don't really know how to treat them with their care and due care in mind.
Yeah.
Because you are right, we can talk of we should do this, we should that, but the reality of it, when you're there and you've got 40, 50 guys sat there on the door, you just want it covered.
Yeah.
My natural nature would probably be to, be patient, tolerant, talk and whatever, but it's a very fast paced industry, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's important to forgive ourselves. Like, it's 2026 now. The knowledge, we were kind of in the industry 100% in the 2000s, 2010s, when the knowledge around this kind of stuff isn't what it is today. I don't think it's fair to judge our reactions then by today's standards.
No.
So,
No.
but yeah, and I guess it's very, from your point of view, you don't always know what's going on in someone's mind. You just know that someone's cancelled a shift, someone's not turned up, someone's late.
Well, basically, what happens is, if they're supposed to be somewhere at 9 o'clock and at 7:30 they message you and say, "Look, I can't do it." Normally, it's by text these days anyway, so it's not a phone call. So it's you're like, "I've got to get this thing covered." I mean, there were sometimes people I wouldn't even reply to them if I thought they were, if I thought they're repetitive, blow outers, like just move on and find someone that can cover it.
Yeah.
But I would me, Dan, I would always encourage people to come in and chat, and I'll sit and talk to them for an hour, 2 hours if need be, to understand what it is. But the fast pacedness on the night, because licensees don't care. I've had people that have been bottled and all sorts on doors, and licensees have no sympathy or empathy for them. They just I just want another person, get it sorted. I'm like, you know what I mean? So
I not so much ADHD, but I've had someone who was quite, I don't want to diagnose this person, but he was quite obviously presenting as autistic, and the licensee was on the phone, get on with it.
yeah,
Didn't even have an incident. Had nothing to do.
horrific.
Had nothing. No, nothing to judge it. This young man, if he was
Yeah.
any good or not. It was just no, don't.
Yeah,
Just that snap, that first impression, that snap judgment, because it's the cutthroat nature of our industry, isn't it?
it is. It is.
So I imagine with all that, you'd have had to mask quite a bit.
Yeah, so I was just thinking, what Mark was saying there, and it really falls on you as a person to be brave enough to kind of share that.
Yeah.
Oh,
To go, boss, like, this is what's going on for me.
Yeah.
This is what I need, and that's really hard. And it, like, I think even today, like, I might go for a role, and it's like, do I put it? Don't I put it? If I do put it, I might be judged on my application.
Yeah.
If I don't put it, I won't get any of the support that I might need for adjustments within the role. So it can be really difficult to do. And again, if I think it's once you've had that becomes easier to go, this is what I've got, this is what I need. But if you don't know and you're just in the middle of that and you haven't developed any of those skills, any of that emotional intelligence, you're just struggling with it and you don't really know what's wrong and you're just, I can't come, I don't feel well.
Yeah, it's really interesting because a couple of weeks ago we spoke about mental health in the industry. And I think one thing we said, wouldn't we, is if I am head doorman of a really sought after venue and I'm having some crisis of mental health, I'll be very worried about opening up to the people I work with, because I know that there's someone in that team who wants my spot,
Absolutely.
or someone in my team that is starting at 11 o'clock and wants my 9 o'clock start because it's an extra 25 quid a week for them. Unfortunately, that is the nature of the industry we work in. So there'd have been added pressure on you, I guess, even though you may not have been aware why you were different, of masking it, building up that shell around you.
Yeah, and I think, there's good leaders and bad leaders everywhere, isn't there? There's good employers and bad employers everywhere.
Absolutely.
And there was definitely a marked difference with, I guess, understanding depending on that employer. And I'm not even sure that they were necessarily even discriminating that you've, any kind of mental health stuff, because, I remember like having a baby, not myself, but my wife.
For all
Never know these days, mate. Never know.
For all the female watchers, he did his bit.
Yeah. I was there. I remember getting a call saying, "Where are you?" I was, what do you mean you're not working tonight? I'm like, I've been in a flipping delivery room for like 48 hours. What are you talking about? And I think, again, as you grow up or you become an employer or whatever it is, you understand it's like, actually, that's just not okay, is it? Because life does happen. And I suppose I've learned over the years to become way more responsible. I'm way better at that stuff now. But yeah, and I think you remember that as an employee, or you don't always remember like people's names, but you always remember how they made you feel.
Yeah,
that's true.
You
true.
might not see someone for years, but they were the really good dinner lady or the really good teacher, or and there's definitely been certain you know, they were nightmare bosses. Like I can't imagine they can operate in that way in today's society. But I don't think it makes it easier for anyone. I don't think it makes it easier as an employer being a bad leader, and I don't think it makes it easier for any staff to want to do better for you either. I think.
No, but I mean, people like that, they're just thinking in the moment of getting that shift filled, aren't they?
Yeah.
If you're having a baby, it's a life-changing event for you.
Yeah.
It's an inconvenience for you because now you've got to find someone else to start at that venue at a certain time with an hour and a half's notice. You're probably not full of empathy in that moment.
No. I think as when you are allocating shifts and stuff, though, you get a feel of the ones that are kind of a bit more repetitive. So if it is that, then you're like, yeah, of course, you know, you're bloody, you know, get on with it. But there you get a pattern with some people.
Yeah.
But I remember there were certain guys and girls that would love the football. So through the summer, you'd be like, he's confirmed this, but it's a big game tomorrow.
Yeah.
I can see him pull that, and not just that you blow out. You get that gut feeling. They develop a pattern.
See, I don't understand that because I remember having a little bit, not so much an argument, but a disagreement with an employer back in the 2018 World Cup because I went to work for them, but I made my position very clear. I won't work an England game. Not because I'm, you know, I worked the World Cup before. I want to enjoy this one.
Yeah.
And he said, well, maybe we have to find someone who can work the World Cup then. I said, that's fine. Maybe I need to find a different security company then because trust me, you need me more than I need you right now. Funnily enough, I got my way.
I'm sure you did.
Because, and I think this is what I don't get is like, just be honest with people.
Be honest.
Just be honest, whether it's a licensee, whether it's an employer, just say, I don't want to work that England game because I just don't want to. I don't need to give you a reason, you know. I think, okay, you come across as a bit of a dick, but rather than think, oh, no, my son's cousin's parrot's had its wing clipped and I need to be around. You don't do that because...
Yeah, just be honest.
Yeah, and I just... My point of view has always been that if you can't have a difficult conversation with your employer or your manager or your licensee, how the hell are you going to deal with a 25-stone rugby player who wants to smash the pub up? You know, if you're cowering at your area manager's phone call, it's going to be very different on a Saturday night for you.
I will just say that I never not turned up or you know, half an hour before can't do it. You know,
good.
I always went through the whole motions at home of forcing myself out. But
what about things like timekeeping? Like not realizing you were late. You're about to leave the house, but you don't know where your badge is. That kind of, you know. How did it affect timekeeping and standards in that way?
I think from I guess from my perspective is I always have really high standards.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, for everything, I don't think there's an employer that I've worked for that doesn't say he hasn't got good standards. And certainly finding my badge was always a thing. But, you know, personally, I always put things into place of leaving really early. So, you know, I was actually good with my timekeeping. I was good at making sure I was there on time, making sure I had what I needed for the most part, or certainly my absolute basics. I think it probably affected me more with maybe when I was doing festival work and long thing, you know, or those big long days, because, you know, that's when I'd have forgot my big water bottle or extra food or extra protein or, you know, whatever it is that I needed. I think it would affect me more on that. But yeah, for me, I was quite, I don't know, I've always been quite passionate about my standard within that side of things. So I may have forgot my little torch or something along the way. But silly things like in the morning, I would have put my badge in my trouser pocket or keep it in the car, or that, just whatever you can do to make that easier. And I think actually for those people who do struggle with that, it is about make your life easier. Keep your badge in your car, keep your badge in your jacket pocket that you always wear to work without fail. Keep your little torch in there, whatever it is you need for your shift, your notepad, whatever it is, like do that. there's definitely things you can do. I think even if you don't understand maybe your diagnosis or what's going on, you can see the issues that you're having. All right, I'm always late, or my boss is telling me I'm always late. I'm always forgetting my stuff. So you have to put some action in. It's not, a good boss can't fix it.
No.
You've got to be like, oh, I need to take some responsibility here.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to do to make it easier.
Okay. That's really interesting. I just want to ask you in terms of conflict itself. So, don't want to hear a war story or anything like that, but we've all had situations where we've been involved in conflicts. How do you think your ADHD impacted those situations? Your responses, your processing afterwards?
I think for the most part helped.
Okay.
Again, I can only, so everyone will have different bits that affect them, so I can only talk from my perspective and what affected me. But, I was always very good in a crisis situation. So when, if the table started flying, so to speak, that is when I'm at my A game. But ask me to fill out a form, a serious incident report after, oh my gosh, terrible. So I think, I think it helped me. It did help me. It helped me to kind of be a step ahead of maybe some colleagues. It helped me to identify risk early. It helped me, keeping calm. I think particularly in like medical, something that goes really underrated is what we do outside of just restraining people. It's the medical side of things. It's the the girl that's too drunk, the person that's been assaulted for no reason, the stuff that's been lost, the thief, and actually I think it really helped me in all those areas. Probably I would say 6% sitting there trying to say, but this certainly gave me an edge in that side of things.
So you think it impacted your fight or flight, freeze?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I ever froze. And for some people, emotional regulation is a big part of ADHD. So that's what they can struggle with. And I think for the most part, I was always calm. I always approached situations well. I always had and I think I'd had the I guess the honor of working under really good people. If like once you're laying hands on, you kind of already mess your job up a little bit. Of course, some situations happen, and you're going into to kill that off very quickly. But I was really good, and I think actually a lot of the stuff outside, so the work that I did outside of security as well, really helped that in kind of conflict resolution. I was always really big on that. Understanding my space between someone. How's my body language? How are my hands? How's my tone? Understanding that. At that point, I was about 30 kilos bigger than I am now. I wasn't tall, but I was a big guy. And, you have to understand you can be intimidating. You have to understand maybe you're standing there with 5 guys who are even much bigger than you. And, there's a lot to it. I'm so ADHD, I've completely lost the question. I'm glad, to be honest. Whilst we're on the subject.
Have you ever thought about getting into coaching or training security staff? Because the stuff you're talking about are the sort of things you want to hear from a trainer. It sounds like if you're not doing the security anymore, you could maybe give a little bit.
Do you know what? I did look into it. I remember chatting to Bob. Everyone knows Bob. About it a while ago when he was running the course. And I think financially at the time I couldn't do it, but it's definitely something that I would consider. In my professional roles now, I do a lot of coaching with people. I do a lot of motivational interview stuff, and how do we help people work it out? How do we? And something I'm really big on is standards. And so even now, like as I'm driving down the road and I see door staff just on their phone, it drives me insane. Or
Me too.
You know, on the bus with a badge on or walking down. I'm like, what are you doing, mate?
That is, and we talk about pet hates,
Mm.
and we talk about things that don't really impact your role so much, but just a pet hate. Going to and from work with your badge on. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just going to say this. If I upset you, I don't care at this point. If you're walking to and from work with your badge on in a black coat, you're just an idiot. You're just asking for someone to attack you. My badge stays in my pocket the second the
100%.
last punter has left the door, and it doesn't go on my arm until after I've signed the book. I don't know about you. I don't know if
Yeah, I'm the same.
It's just you see it on,
Yeah.
they're on bus. They're sat on buses.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They're getting on the night bus or whatever with their badge on their arm. I'm thinking,
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
oh my god!
I mean, how many times at work have you been? Has there been a case of mistaken identity, right? I.e., a door staff has restrained someone, or someone's been assaulted, and someone and they're like, "You did that to me,"
Yeah.
and now you're on the bus home by yourself.
Massive target
with 10 geezers.
I used to even take it to another level. So if I parked close to the venue and it was raining, not so much, but if I was having to walk into work, I wouldn't even wear a black coat into work. I'd different coloured jumper, blue jumper, red jumper, whatever, just to walk in, just to try and hopefully hide as much. And again, it's not fear. I just don't want to be approached on my way home.
People might think that's over the top, but that's this situational awareness, and it's like, you know, if I've done enough of this stuff whilst I'm at work, I don't want to do it when I'm finished at 4 o'clock in the morning alone. Like, no. So just to take those small steps, because it, you know, it is, because some people, you know, it is taught, and so don't be lazy around it. Do you know what I mean? Save yourself the potential for real harm by.
And people have been assaulted on their way home from work, but it's not even about that for me. It's the whole, oh mate, yeah, you're that doorman from such and such. When can my friend come back in? I don't want to have this conversation right now.
Yeah.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I want to get home.
100%.
You know, so yeah, you triggered me there with that little because it really is, and I don't think most people from our generation did that. It's something I've seen.
Not so many. I used to work at the Brass House when it first opened, and back then it was nice to wear a suit, but when I used to finish work, I would change my tie. I'd put my own tie on, just to walk through town. They were shutting at 11, but I didn't want to look like a doorman.
Yeah,
you know, I put a nice tie on, walk through town because I might go to the Cage and Zoo maybe for a drink after. Yeah, I wanted to look like a smart guy. I didn't want to look like, because you are a target, and the amount of times you'd walk along, especially when the bars were finishing at 11, because you were then walking through town and the people that you'd evicted were stood in queues for clubs.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I don't understand it. Walking around with their high-vis jackets on, I'm like, why are you doing that?
Don't get it.
And that's even like pre-Town Watch days as well and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know, there was no joined up work.
Yeah,
that's right.
Now, you know, where it is a bit better if you've had an incident.
Well, again, you may know more about this than I do. I think it's gone full circle. I think there was a point about 10, 15 years ago where that joint up working was fantastic. But now we're flipping back towards the venues really not cooperating and working together. I don't know if you...
I haven't spent enough time in the town centre, but I do hear that, yeah.
You know, very little radio usage. Well, yeah, because I think it's the economic climate. You know, if you're barred from my venue, that's great for him because he's got another customer.
Yeah.
And these are venues that are struggling, you know, so actually they quite like it when people are barred from other venues because it's more business for them. I think people are less choosy around their customers now than they were 20 years ago.
So do they still have the Tango Charlie, the guy that was controlling? Because he was great back in the day. He got to get stressed sometimes, but he was good. You know, 12 o'clock, he'd be on there. And,
501. I used to work over in Paul. It was Charlie Pepper 4. Yeah. They were good.
I wonder if they still exist, though.
Don't know. I don't know.
They must do. With the way CCTV is.
I'd imagine so, yeah.
I remember, and someone will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember there was a time when they were asking licensees to buy into Town Watch.
Yeah, you had to pay for it.
You had to pay, and licensees were like, I ain't spending money on that. It's an overhead. And they didn't see the value in it. Some not all licensees, some really understood the benefit of it. But it's just very interesting how that joined up working. It goes full circles. A lot of these things do, don't they?
Yeah.
A lot of these things go full circles. The
Yeah, they
standards
do.
definitely have.
I wonder how that like affects guys on the night on the door, because I don't know about you, Mark, but we would always I'd look out for the pub over the road. We would look out
Absolutely.
for the pub next
Yeah.
door.
Well,
Yeah,
we've talked about this, and I agree with that. And you should, I believe, morally, because you want them to look out for you. But Dan made a good point, and he's right. Licensees don't want you to do that. So you're ever facing this battle now of, well, I should help him out. They're like, we don't want you to help him out because we don't want that to be seen as a black mark on our venue. And then you also went through that phase of, early 2000s, door staff were becoming more and more trained through the licensing, and licensees, police licenses would come in and say, right, call these things through, intelligence, if there's a problem, let us know, be proactive. And then it kind of a few years later, it started to be like, well, now licensees are getting called in, you've got a big log of incidents. Well, and I'm like, well, they're not our instance, but we are calling it in, like you said. But now at the end of the year, it's looking negative on us.
It's all minuted, isn't it?
So it's a hard one, and I think you have to address that to not just the licensees but the police. They have to go, well, we can alert you to this stuff. We can alert there's some drug dealing going on in the car park opposite, which is bringing bad people. But are you then going to put that as a black mark to our venue?
Yeah.
And if you are, licensees are simply not going to call it in.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a hard one, that, because I believe you're right. Of course you help them because they help you.
The media are terrible for that as well, aren't they? Because if there's a massive incident on the street somewhere that just happens to be outside a venue, even though that venue's got nothing to do with it.
Exactly.
Outside X bar, so and so was
arrested. You had it recently, didn't you? That one in Chalmers, I won't mention the bar, but someone got killed.
Yeah.
It's all about that bar, and then you actually dig into it, and it wasn't the bar; it was somewhere down the road.
Yeah.
But they simply attach it to that bar.
And if they're and it seems to be that if you've got 2 or 3 bars in a row, it's the same bar that gets constantly mentioned.
That's right, yeah.
And it's just very difficult because I've been there and I've had these conversations with licensees where I'm working in a venue that's got 3 or 4 man team. Next door's a 1-man door. And they've got a bit of an incident. So morally, I want to go over and help them out. I've got to spend 5-10 seconds having an argument with my licensee because he doesn't want me to do that.
Yeah.
But I do see his point, because the guy next door should be having 2 or 3 doormen.
Of course.
He's only paying for 1 to meet his license requirement because he knows he's got 2 or 3 guys next door that can help him.
Yeah.
So there are licensees that do cheapskate off each other. And I can imagine that is very frustrating for a licensee. But there's a lot of tokenistic working together, but they don't really work together, these licensees.
No.
Do they?
Oh, no, they don't. No, they don't. No.
I remember actually, I never heard this firsthand, but you know how sometimes an area manager says something to a head doorman and it kind of filters down through the teams. When I first got my badge back in Weymouth, there was 2 major companies that were pinching staff off each other. And it was like, okay, if they need help, don't back them up. Because that's the rival company. They were like best friends working for different companies.
Yeah.
There was a pair of brothers that worked at one of these companies. So I'm not going to stand there and watch my brother get his head kicked in just because.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone really. I don't know if it was more tongue in cheek, but it was flying round. That's what we're not to do. It's so bad. At what point do we just think? I'm working on this venue for the first stop. But for all I know, next week I could be 2ping over to another company, and those guys I didn't help last week are now coming to work with me. It's like, yeah. And how did you manage? Because obviously we've talked about subcontracting environment. You could be really settled in your venue, really comfortable, really happy. Then all of a sudden, boom, we've lost this venue. The licensees come in. He wants to change company. once a completely different team. Your whole world, professional world, was just upside down overnight. I think for people without ADHD, that's a difficult period to process. How did it impact you when things like that happened?
I got